Well, this is exciting. I can hardly contain myself.
Countless fathoms below the sea, in the fabled city of Atlantis, there is great rejoicing. For within the palace royal, Prince Namor, mighty Submariner, sits at last upon the golden throne.
Hasn't he already done that like 3 times? But everybody's happy, dancing, singing, and enjoying the festivities.
Please be alive!
That right there is something that hasn't made sense to me since I was 13 watching these things. Why can't she just swim out of there? Namor knows the surface people caused this with their tests, oil drilling, and all that. He's angry enough that he'll head up to the surface and order us to stop. Dorma wants to go with him, but he won't risk her life.
But there is yet another reason. The Behemoth may rise again.
The Behemoth? But I thought...
That he was safely buried in a secret place, aye. But a catastrophe such as we have just suffered could cause him to rise.
The Behemoth appears exactly 1 time in the Bible in the book of Job. It's some kind of large animal, and scholars have been trying to figure out what large animal since the day it was written. The description is impossibly poetic and includes tons of word pictures that we don't fully understand. The good news is, for our purposes today, we don't need to. What we need to know is the Atlanteans stole the name rather than dream up a name of their own.
After the last Holocaust, he was created by our greatest scientists to protect Atlantis against future disaster. But they made the Behemoth so strong, they could not control him. And should he rise, he might turn against us.
They made this creature with the ability to do that because he wants Dorma to stay here to be his eyes and ears while he's gone, as usual. And as usual, my question is, if the Behemoth does attack Atlantis, how does she let him know? His journey takes him to a drilling platform operated by a certain Dr. Pym. No, today he's just a scientist. He left his Avenger ID at home.
Only by drilling deeper than man has ever probed before can we gain a clue to the origin of life upon this earth.
Come again? Please explain how. At least that guy in Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea knew what chemicals he was looking for and where to find them. As we know, he should have left them there, but that's a matter for that video.
Dr. Pym, a warning blip is appearing on the sonar screen.
Something is traveling toward us at a fantastic speed. Alert the guard. Order all units to stand by. Condition red.
It could just as easily be a large shark chasing a fish, but we surface dwellers think anything we don't understand must be a threat. In this case, they're sort of right, but that's beside the point.
A gigantic drill. It will be a simple matter for Namor to handle. Rather this than an armed invasion.
The drill. The control lever is jamming.
Easy, Dr. Franz. Don't force it. It is caused by some presence below.
Exactly. The shark is chasing the fish around and around the drill shaft so fast the vortex is reversing the drill. The fish eventually won when the shark accidentally slammed into Namor. Now that he has their attention, Namor will deliver his message.
The blip is coming closer. It will be upon us in seconds. Put plan intercept into operation. On the double. All civilian personnel are ordered to remain below decks. Progress. Attack.
They're going to a lot of trouble over one hungry shark. I wonder what Dr. Pym thinks that blip is. If it's a torpedo, he's crazy to put divers in the water. They'll be shredded when it explodes. And if it is a hungry shark, it couldn't care less about those guys in the wetsuits because neoprene tastes funny.
Seconds later.
Lay down your arms, Prince Namor commands.
Maybe this wasn't such a brilliant plan after all.
The Royal Council was right. But if it is battle they want, it is battle they shall get.
He went under. I think we got him.
Dream on, little broomstick cowboy.
Those few puny humans are beneath my notice. I must reach their leader. I I command you to halt your project and leave the area at once. By order of Namor the First, Lord of Atlantis.
Your rank means nothing to me, mister. Stand aside, or I won't be responsible.
That's a little out of character for the Dr. Pym we know. At the same time, I have to wonder why Namor thinks he has any authority up here. He'd do better to ask than try to command.
He's coming closer.
I warned you.
I'll get him, Dr. Pym.
No!
Even the Prince of Atlantis isn't bulletproof.
Then I guess it's a good thing it missed him.
The bullet has struck an oxygen tank.
Quick! Everybody pitch in, we're all doomed.
I'm sorry, Dr. Pym. I lost my head.
We must keep the blaze from reaching the inflammable equipment in the hole below.
If that had been an actual oxygen tank, the whole place would have exploded. While they try to deal with that guy's screw-up, Namor has decided these aren't the droids he's looking for.
Flames are doing my work for me. Now they'll be forced to leave these waters.
Namor, you're to blame for this.
Always you humans blame the Submariner. You never understand. Very well then, if enemies we must be, I shall seek a higher authority who can guarantee the safety of my kingdom.
Namor, wait!
Wait for what? You already told him what he needs to know about you. He wasn't the one who fired the shot. He came unarmed and ready to talk. You greeted him with violence before he could say a single word and then blamed him for it. Why should he talk to you?
Streaking toward the mainland, Namor is unaware that thousands of fathoms below, a giant hand writhes its way out of an ever-widening fissure. And for the unsuspecting citizens of Atlantis, a new terror is in store.
Somebody needs to explain to Namor that stuff like this happens when he talks about it. That thing wouldn't be doing anything if Namor hadn't brought it up. A good prince also knows when to keep his yap shut. He swims to New York. He hasn't said what he plans to do next.
It's him, the Submariner.
Submariner sighted in Central Park. Be on the alert.
Submariner. How can a guy with wings on his feet and wearing a pair of bathing trunks walk around in New York and not be spotted?
That's easy. The Yippie movement was gaining steam in New York, and the following year they would organize into a genuine outfit. He can blend in with them, no problem.
There he is. He's in position. Close in. Surrender peaceably, Submariner. We've got you covered from all sides.
And what's their problem with him? He hasn't done anything but walk around. They forgot he can fly, and he takes off.
If he gets much higher, we're going to lose him. He's heading for that electric billboard.
Namor, surrender. We don't want to hurt you. Mustn't let him get out of range. Prepare to fire.
And one bullet hits its mark.
It's only a flesh wound, but it's enough to weaken him to the point where he needs to get to water to revive his strength. Considering that Manhattan is an island, all he needs to do is start going any direction and he'll come to water eventually.
At that moment, a grisly claw emerges from its secret burial place. The dreaded Behemoth, to whom any living thing is an enemy.
Remember, they created this thing with no safeguards to protect themselves. If it gets hungry, they can feed it the guy who came up with that idea. Dorma has to get a message to Namor, and cell phones don't exist yet, so she has to do it the hard way.
By swimming to the surface, I could never locate Namor in time to save Atlantis. But within my prince's own monoscout craft is an automatic homing device, zeroed in to Namor's heartbeat no matter where he may be.
Since he's the one who usually drives it, why? Is it supposed to return to him like Thor's hammer? Still, it's a good thing the convenience department put it in there because it makes finding Namor a lot easier. He's made his way to the Hudson River and jumped in, so he's feeling much better now.
Well, I'm feeling much better now.
Come, let me get you to shore.
I thought he needed to be in the water. Namor, I think she's secretly trying to do you in.
My counsel was right. The surface people believe me to be their enemy.
There is a greater enemy below. The Behemoth has risen against us.
There is no more to be said. I must destroy him.
But, most noble lord, you are too weak.
No matter. I still have my wits.
Like she said, you're defenseless.
Perhaps I can entangle him in his own rope like hair.
Or perhaps not. Dorma has skedaddled back to Atlantis to get him some help.
You must send warriors, quickly.
My lady, our army has scattered without their leader. The Behemoth has caused such panic among our people, only Namor can bring them to their senses.
So Namor has the world's worst army. It sounds like he'd have more success trying to organize a room full of cats. No offense.
I must use my wits. There is only one hope. The quagmire of doom. If I can but lead him to it.
It's nice that the convenience department built that, too.
I must swim as close as I dare. It's done! Now to hurl myself away before I too am swept into the bottomless pit.
And so the deadliest being ever to tread the ocean's floor disappears from human sight forever.
And for probably the 100th time, I have to ask, they're all in water. Most living bodies are at least a little buoyant. Once that whirlpool subsides, why can't it just swim out?
Take heart, my people. The Behemoth is no more. Let us rebuild our city, and I promise that someday the surface dwellers will understand that our two worlds must live in peace. So say I, Prince Namor the First, Imperious.
Don't ask me what happened to the last word. I didn't make the DVD. There's no explanation for why the surface people are so hostile toward Namor. Sure, he's arrogant. He thinks being a king down there makes him one up here. But there are lots of ways to deal with that, and most of them don't involve bullets. Part of the problem was he kept doing things like screwing with that drill. And once he had Pym's ear, all he did was bark orders. If he had told the good doctor what their activities were doing to his city, he might have gotten an audience. But frankly, Namor is a super-powered numbskull. The humans are hostile because that's how he comes across. He makes demands and veiled threats and expects people who don't even know his place exists to submit to his authority. Of the 5 characters we chose to put in these cartoons, Namor is far and away the least enjoyable. He's full of himself and aggressive. His biggest accomplishment in his trip to the surface was making people mad enough to start a fire on their own boat. I want to see how they put that into the official records of Atlantis. You can bet the scribe who's unlucky enough to draw that assignment will use all the verbal gymnastics at his command to make Namor come out smelling like a rose. It's called job security.
Stronger than a whale, he can swim anywhere. He can breathe underwater and go flying through the air. The noble submariner, prince of the deep, truly very deadly demon. Lord Namor of Atlantis is the prince of the deep.
Made, come on, mouth. I was come on, mouth. Yap, shut. I can say yap. That whirlpool. I can say whirlpool. Trip to the surface was back. Boy, that deteriorated.